The betrayal. The Galactic Peace Summit was supposed to be humanity's crowning achievement. After centuries of reaching for the stars, they had finally taken their place among the interstellar community. The massive space station Harmony, a marvel of engineering that blended the best of human and alien technology, hung in the void between Earth and Mars, a shining beacon of cooperation and progress. Commander Sarah Chen stood at rigid attention behind the human delegation, her dress uniform crisp and uncomfortable. As head of security for the summit, she scanned the Grand Assembly Hall with sharp, dark eyes. Hundreds of alien diplomats from across the Milky Way filled the chamber, a dizzying array of forms and colors that still amazed her even after years of first contact. At the center of it all stood the imposing figures of the Galactic Council, the Arbiters, as they called themselves. Towering humanoids with iridescent skin and penetrating silver eyes, they exuded an aura of ancient wisdom and power. Chen had always found them unsettling, though she couldn't put her finger on why. And so, we welcome humanity into the fold of galactic civilization. The lead arbiter's voice boomed through the hall, his words translated simultaneously for all present. May this mark the beginning of a new era of peace and prosperity for all sentient beings. Polite applause rippled through the assembly. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Years of preparation had led to this moment. Humanity had proven itself worthy. And now the galaxy and all its wonders lay open before them. That's when she noticed it. A slight shimmer in the air near the arbiters, almost imperceptible. Chen's hand instinctively moved towards her sidearm, but she froze. Making a scene now, at this crucial moment, could jeopardize everything. She forced herself to relax, but kept her eyes locked on that spot, searching for any other signs off. The explosion rocked the entire station. Chaos erupted instantly. Alien diplomats scrambled in panic as the lights flickered and emergency klaxons blared. Chen's training kicked in, and she moved to secure the human delegation. "Everyone stay calm," she shouted over the din. "We need to evacuate in an orderly." Her words died in her throat as the massive view screen at the front of the hall crackled to life. The image it displayed turned her blood to ice. Earth, their beautiful blue marble, and descending upon it like locusts, a vast armada of ships. Beams of searing energy lanced from the vessels, punching through the planet's meager defenses with terrifying ease. Chen watched in horror as the first impacts bloomed across the surface of her homeworld. Cities that had stood for millennia were vaporized in an instant. Entire continents were obscured by the spreading firestorms. A hand gripped her shoulder, and she whirled to find herself face to face with one of the arbiters. Its silver eyes now gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "Did you truly believe we would allow your kind to threaten our dominion?" The alien's words slithered into her mind. "Humanity's potential is too great. You leave us no choice but to excise the infection before it spreads." Rage and despair warred within Chen as the implications hit her. This entire summit had been nothing but an elaborate trap. While they celebrated peace, the Galactic Council had positioned their fleets to wipe out humanity in one fell swoop. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the viewports, Chen could see ships of alien design moving into attack position. Harmony itself had become a kill box. "We have to get out of here," Chen yelled, galvanized into action. She grabbed the nearest human diplomat and began shoving her way through the panicked crowd. Head for the emergency shuttles. But as they reached the hall's main exit, massive blast doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. The arbiter's chilling laughter echoed through hidden speakers. "There will be no escape, humans. You will bear witness to the extinction of your species before we grant you the mercy of death." Chen's mind raced. There had to be a way out, some option they'd overlooked. Then it hit her. The prototype. "Listen to me," she hissed to the handful of humans she'd managed to gather. "There's a secret hangar on the lower levels. We have an experimental stealth ship docked there. It's our only chance." As the diplomats nodded frantically, Chen's gaze fell on a diminutive alien slumped against the wall nearby. Its tentacles were wrapped protectively around an injury oozing phosphorescent fluid. She recognized the species, a Zixel. They were renowned as brilliant scientists throughout the galaxy. Making a split-second decision, Chen scooped up the wounded alien. "You're coming with us," she said. "We might need that big brain of yours." With the station coming apart around them, and the screams of the dying echoing through the corridors, Chen led her ragtag group through service tunnels and maintenance shafts. Twice they were forced to hide as squads of alien soldiers swept past, eliminating any survivors they encountered. Finally, they reached the hidden hangar. The sleek black ship within was humanity's ace in the hole, a vessel that could bend light around itself, becoming virtually invisible to all known forms of detection. It was an untested prototype, but it was also their last hope. As Chen's team scrambled aboard, she spared one final glance at the hangar's view screen. The image of Earth burning seared itself into her mind. Villians snuffed out in an instant of treachery and fire. "Get us out of here," she growled to the pilot as she strapped herself in. "Plot a course for the outer colonies. With any luck, the Council hasn't reached them yet." The ship slipped out of the disintegrating station like a ghost, while all around them, the last vestiges of humanity's dreams of peace were consumed in flame. Hours later, as the survivors huddled in the ship's cramped command center, the full weight of what had occurred began to sink in. Tears flowed freely as they mourned their lost homes, their families, the very future they had believed in. Chen stood apart, her face a mask of grim determination. She approached the alien scientist, who was recuperating in a makeshift medical bay. "Doctor," she addressed the Zixel, "I need to know, did you have any idea this was coming?" The alien's multifaceted eyes blinked rapidly. "And no," it stammered. "I swear to you, Commander, this betrayal, it goes against everything the Council claimed to stand for, everything I believed in." Chen nodded slowly. "Then I have a proposition for you, Doctor." "Zix," the alien supplied. "Dr. Ral Zix of the Zixel Science Academy." "Dr. Zix," Chen continued, "humanity is on the brink of extinction. But I promise you this, we will not go quietly into the night. We're going to fight back, and we're going to make the Council pay for every life they've taken. Your scientific knowledge could be invaluable to that effort. Will you help us?" Zix was quiet for a long moment, internal membranes flickering in what Chen had learned was a sign of deep thought among the Zixel. Finally, the alien met her gaze with steely resolve. "The Council has betrayed not just humanity, but the very principles of galactic civilization," Zix declared. "I will aid you in any way I can, Commander. And I believe I may have information that could turn the tide in your favor." Chen leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "What kind of information?" Zix glanced around furtively before replying. "Rumors, mostly. Whispers in the darker corners of the scientific community. But if they're true, the Council may not be as invincible as they believe." For the first time since the massacre began, a flicker of hope sparked in Chen's chest. She straightened, addressing her entire team. "Listen up, people. I know we've lost almost everything. I know the odds seem impossible, but humanity has faced long odds before. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own destructive nature. And now, we're going to survive this." Her voice grew fierce, filled with the indomitable spirit that had carried their species to the stars. "The Galactic Council thought they could wipe us out in one fell swoop. They thought we'd lie down and die. But they've just made the biggest mistake in their long, miserable history. They've awakened a sleeping giant, and we're about to remind the galaxy why humanity has thrived in the face of every challenge we've ever encountered." Chen's eyes blazed with righteous fury. "We're going to find other survivors. We're going to gather our strength. And then we're going to rain such hell upon the Galactic Council that the memory of our vengeance will echo through the cosmos for eons to come." As her words rang out, Chen saw the spark of defiance ignite in the eyes of her fellow survivors. Human and alien alike, they stood a little straighter, lifted by a shared purpose. The ship streaked through the starry void, carrying with it the last desperate hope of humanity. The Galactic Council had intended this day to mark the end of the human race. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Earth's last stand. The skeletal remains of Luna Base Alpha stood as a grim sentinel over the bruised blue marble of Earth. Once a shining beacon of human achievement, the lunar outpost now served as the last desperate holdout for the tattered remnants of humanity. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the cracked dome of the main observatory, her face illuminated by the sickly glow of the fires still burning across Earth's surface. "Status report," she barked, not taking her eyes off the homeworld she had sworn to protect. Lieutenant Raj Patel, her second in command, cleared his throat. "It's not good, Commander. The Galactic Council's main armada has entered the system. Long-range scans show over 1,000 capital ships, with who knows how many support craft. They'll reach Earth orbit in less than 6 hours." Chen's jaw clenched. It had been 3 weeks since the betrayal at Harmony Station. 3 weeks of frantic preparation, of cobbling together any resources they could salvage from the lunar colonies and orbital platforms. 3 weeks of watching the death toll on Earth climb into the billions as the remnants of humanity's fleet fought a desperate holding action against the Council's advance forces. "What's the status of Project Firewall?" she asked, finally turning to face Patel. The lieutenant's dark eyes glimmered with a mix of hope and trepidation. "Dr. Zix says it's ready for deployment. But, Commander, are we sure about this? It seems like a long shot at best." Chen's lips quirked in a humorless smile. "At this point, Lieutenant, long shots are all we have left." She strode purposefully through the corridors of the repurposed base, Paddle struggling to keep up with her longer strides. They passed huddles of shell-shocked civilians and grim-faced soldiers, all watching the commander with a mixture of awe and desperate hope. The unlikely pair of human commander and alien scientist had become symbols of resistance in the days following the massacre. Dr. Zix's insights into Council technology, combined with Chen's tactical brilliance, had allowed them to bloodily repel the first waves of the invasion. But now, the full might of the Galactic Council was bearing down on them, and conventional tactics would no longer suffice. They entered the makeshift lab where Dr. Zix hunched over a console, his tentacles flying across multiple interfaces simultaneously. The Zixel scientist had hardly slept in days, driven by equal parts guilt over his former master's betrayal and a burning desire to aid humanity in their darkest hour. "Is it ready?" Chen asked without preamble. Zix's eye stalks swiveled towards her. "Yes, Commander. Though I must once again express my reservations about." "Noted," Chen cut him off. "But we're out of options and out of time. Activate the system." The alien nodded reluctantly and began the startup sequence. Lights flickered throughout the base as power was diverted to the massive undertaking. Project Firewall was audacious, perhaps suicidally so. Using salvaged Council technology and the practically magical properties of exotic matter, they had turned Earth's orbital debris field into the largest electromagnetic pulse generator in human history. If it worked, it would fry the systems of any ship that tried to approach the planet. Of course, it would also knock out what remained of Earth's own defenses, a double-edged sword that left them terrifyingly vulnerable if it failed. As klaxons blared to signal the project's activation, Chen turned to Patel. "Get to your fighter squadron. When the Council fleet arrives, I want you to hit them with everything we got left. If Firewall works, they'll be sitting ducks." Patel saluted sharply. "Aye, Commander. It's been an honor serving with you." As he left, Chen felt a twinge in her chest. So many good people had already died. How many more would be sacrificed before this was over? The next 6 hours passed in a blur of feverish activity. Every ship that could still fly was prepped for battle. The pitiful remains of Earth's orbital defense grid were charged to maximum capacity. And all the while, the Council armada grew larger in their scopes, an unstoppable tide of destruction. Chen stood in Luna Base's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching fleet. Dr. Zix worked furiously at a nearby console, making last-minute adjustments to firewall. "They're entering extreme weapons range," a sensor operator called out, her voice tight with tension. Chen took a deep breath. This was it. Humanity's last stand. "Activate firewall," she ordered. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a soundless flash that lit up the lunar sky, a wave of electromagnetic energy burst forth from the debris field surrounding Earth. It washed over the planet like a second atmosphere before racing out towards the incoming council ships. On the displays, Chen watched with bated breath as the energy wave struck the alien armada. For one horrible moment, she feared it had failed. Then, one by one, the signatures of the council vessels began to wink out. A ragged cheer went up from the command staff. Firewall had worked. The council fleet hung dead in space, their systems overloaded by the massive EMP burst. "All fighters, launch now." Chen barked into the comm. "Hit them while they're vulnerable." Patel's voice crackled over the channel. "Roger that, Commander. Wolf Squadron is on the way. We'll make these bastards pay." Chen allowed herself a grim smile as she watched the pitifully small force of human fighters streak towards the crippled council fleet. It wasn't a victory, not by a long shot. But for the first time since this nightmare began, they had a fighting chance. Her elation was short-lived. "Commander," Dr. Zix called out, his voice filled with alarm. "I'm detecting a massive energy spike from the council flagship." Chen's blood ran cold. "What? How is that possible?" Before the alien could respond, a blinding beam of energy lanced out from the center of the council fleet. It struck Firewall's epicenter, the burst of power overloading the delicate network and sending cascading explosions through the debris field. In the space of a heartbeat, humanity's greatest defense was reduced to rapidly expanding clouds of superheated plasma. "Status report," Chen demanded, her knuckles white, as she gripped the command console. "Firewall it's gone, Commander," a technician replied, his voice hollow with disbelief. "The Council fleet is already beginning to reactivate their systems. Our fighters are completely exposed." Chen's mind raced. How had they countered the EMP so quickly? What could possibly have generated that much power? She turned to Dr. Zix, hoping the alien scientist might have some insight. What she saw stopped her cold. The Zixel stood rigid, his eye stalks focused on a data stream only he could see. His tentacles trembled as he whispered, "It's impossible." "Doctor, what is it?" Chen demanded. Zix turned to her, fear evident in his alien features. "The energy signature. I've only seen its like once before, in restricted files from the deepest archives. Commander, I believe the Council has somehow gained control of a precursor artifact." The bottom dropped out of Chen's stomach. The precursors, mysterious beings that had vanished from the galaxy eons ago, leaving behind technology so advanced it was indistinguishable from magic. If the Council had somehow weaponized a precursor artifact, she was spared from following that terrifying line of thought by a frantic call from the comm officer. "Commander, Lieutenant Patel's squadron is under heavy fire. They're requesting immediate support." Chen steeled herself. There would be time to worry about precursor technology later. Right now, her people needed her. "Launch everything we have left," she ordered, "and get me a secure line to the outer colonies. It's time to play our last card." As chaos erupted around her, Chen strode to a private terminal and punched in a series of codes known only to her. A moment later, a familiar face appeared on the screen. "Hello, Sarah," the man said, his eyes sad but unsurprised. "I was wondering when you'd call." "Hello, Dad," Chen replied. "Remember that black project you told me never to ask about? The one hidden out past Pluto? We need it. Now." Her father's expression grew grave. "You understand what you're asking. If we reveal that technology, there's no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." Chen looked out the viewport, where the feeble remnants of Earth's defenders fought and died against the overwhelming Council force. "The galaxy already isn't the same," she said quietly. "Activate Project Lazarus. It's time to show the Council that humanity isn't so easy to kill." As she cut the transmission, Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. They had started this day planning humanity's last stand. Now, against all odds, they were about to go on the offensive. The human spark. The Kuiper Belt facility, known as Outpost Omega, hung in the inky void at the edge of the solar system, a jagged assemblage of stealth-hardened modules and experimental sensor arrays. Within its most secure chamber, Commander Sarah Chen stared in awe at the pulsing artifact before her. "My God," she breathed. "It's beautiful." The object defied easy description. It seemed to shift and flow, its iridescent surface rippling with patterns that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Dr. Zix hovered nearby, his tentacles twitching with barely contained excitement. "The precursor codex," the alien scientist whispered reverently. "I never dreamed I'd see one with my own eyes." Chen turned to her father, Admiral Jason Chen, who stood rigidly at attention despite the fatigue evident on his face. "How long have we had this?" The elder Chen sighed. "We discovered it during a covert expedition to a supposedly dead world about 5 years ago. We've been studying it in secret ever since." "And you're sure it can help us?" Sarah pressed. Her father nodded grimly. "It's our only hope. The Codex contains the accumulated knowledge of the precursors. If we can unlock its secrets, we might stand a chance against the Council's stolen technology." Sarah's mind raced. The battle for Earth still raged, with what remained of humanity's forces fighting a desperate holding action. They had mere days, perhaps only hours, before the planet fell completely. "How do we activate it?" she demanded. Dr. Zix cleared his throat nervously. "That's where things get complicated, Commander. You see, the Codex doesn't respond to just anyone. It requires a specific type of neural pattern to interface with it, a pattern we've only found in one species." Sarah's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "Humans." The alien nodded. "Precisely. Something about your brains, your capacity for abstract thought, perhaps, or your unique blend of logic and intuition. It resonates with the precursor technology in a way we've never seen before." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "We've been running simulations, trying to find the right candidate to interface with the Codex. Sarah, all of our models point to you as the ideal choice." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What exactly would that entail? Her father's expression was grim. "We don't know for certain. The process has never been attempted before, but based on our research, it would likely involve a full neural link. Your consciousness would merge with the Codex itself." The weight of what they were asking settled over Sarah like a lid blanket. To risk not just her life, but her very identity, on the slim chance that it might save humanity. But as she looked at the faces around her, her father's quiet determination, Dr. Zix's hopeful anticipation, the fear and desperation in the eyes of the facility staff, she knew there was only one choice she could make. "Let's do it," she said firmly. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Sarah was briefed on what little they knew of the interface process, underwent a battery of physical and psychological evaluations, and said what might be her final goodbyes to her father and the rest of the team. As she was led to the interface chamber, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the intercom. "We've been discovered. Council ships are entering the system. We need to begin the interface now." Sarah broke into a run, Dr. Zix scuttling along beside her. They burst into the chamber just as the first impacts rocked the outpost. "We're out of time," Sarah gasped as she strapped herself into the interface cradle. "Do it." Dr. Zix's tentacles flew across the control panel. The Codex began to pulse more rapidly, tendrils of energy arcing out towards Sarah. She gritted her teeth against the pain as the alien energies coursed through her body. And then, suddenly, she was elsewhere. Sarah found herself floating in an infinite void. surrounded by streams of data and pulsing nodes of pure information. The accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization flowed around and through her. But she wasn't alone. A presence materialized before her, taking the form of a being of pure light. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in Sarah's mind. "Welcome, child of Earth," it said. "We have waited a long time for one such as you." Sarah struggled to form coherent thoughts in this strange realm. "Who? What are you?" "We are the last echo of those you call the precursors," the being replied. "Our civilization fell long ago, but we left behind guardians, such as myself, to watch over the younger races, to wait for those with the potential to take up our mantle." A flash of urgency cut through Sarah's awe. "Please, we need your help. Our world is under attack by—" "We know of the Galactic Council," the being interrupted. "They were meant to be custodians, guiding the development of young species, but they have become corrupt, seizing power that was never meant to be theirs." Images flashed through Sarah's mind. The rise and fall of countless civilizations, the slow corruption of the Council over millennia. "But humanity has a spark," the being continued, "a potential we have not seen since our own early days. That is why the Codex responded to you. You have the capacity to wield our legacy responsibly." Sarah felt knowledge flooding into her mind, the secrets of gravity manipulation, faster than light travel, even the ability to reshape matter at the quantum level. It was overwhelming, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. I don't know if I'm ready for this," she stammered. The being's light pulsed warmly. "No one ever is. But the universe does not wait for us to be ready. You must rise to the challenge before you." With a final surge of energy, the interface was complete. Sarah's consciousness expanded, encompassing not just the outpost, but the entire solar system. She could sense the Council ships closing in, the desperate battle still raging around Earth. And she knew exactly what needed to be done. In the physical world, Sarah's eyes snapped open, now glowing with an inner light. She rose from the interface cradle, power crackling around her. "Dr. Zix," she said, her voice resonating with newfound authority, "I need you to broadcast a message to every human ship and outpost in the system. Tell them to fall back and regroup at these coordinates." She transmitted a series of numbers directly into the alien's mind. The Zixel scientist stared at her in awe. "Commander, what are you going to do?" Sarah smiled, a hint of her old self shining through the mantle of power she now wore. "I'm going to remind the Galactic Council why they feared humanity's potential in the first place." With a thought, she teleported herself into the void of space, directly into the path of the oncoming Council armada. Thousands of alien ships bristled with weaponry, their combined firepower enough to crack a planet. Sarah raised her hand, and reality itself seemed to bend around her. Space-time warped and twisted, forming a barrier that even the Council's precursor-derived weapons couldn't penetrate. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth." Her voice boomed across every communication channel, echoing in the minds of allies and enemies alike. "You came to our world believing you could exterminate us like insects, but humanity does not break. We do not yield, and we are done running." With a gesture, she reached out to the Council's flagship. In an instant, she was inside its command center, face to face with the Arbiter Prime itself. The ancient alien's silver eyes widened in shock and fear. "Impossible," it hissed. "How did you?" "Your time is over," Sarah declared. "The age of the Galactic Council is at an end. Humanity and its allies will forge a new path for this galaxy, one of true cooperation and progress, not the stagnation and tyranny you have imposed." The Arbiter snarled, lashing out with its own formidable powers, but Sarah casually deflected the attack, her new abilities far surpassing anything the Council had stolen or corrupted. "You have a choice," she continued. "Surrender now and face justice for your crimes, or be destroyed. Choose wisely." As the Arbiter's resolve crumbled, Sarah allowed herself a small, grim smile. The real work was just beginning. Humanity would need to come to terms with its new role in the galaxy. There would be challenges, dangers, and hard choices ahead. But for the first time since the massacre that had started this war, Sarah felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The human spark had been ignited, and the universe would never be the same. Uprising of the oppressed. The news of humanity's sudden and inexplicable turnaround spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On countless worlds subjugated by the Galactic Council, hope flickered to life for the first time in millennia. On the desert world of Zarkov, clan leader Kvex watched the holographic transmission with his 4 eyes wide in disbelief. The human commander, Sarah Chen, they called her, had single-handedly halted the Council's invasion force. More than that, she spoke of a new order, of freedom from oppression. Kvex's leathery skin rippled with excitement. "Summon the War Council," he growled to his attendant. "It's time we reconsidered our allegiances." Similar scenes played out across 1,000 worlds. Species long ground under the Council's heel began to whisper of rebellion. Underground resistance movements, which had festered in secret for generations, suddenly found themselves flooded with eager recruits. But while many celebrated, the Council seethed. In the towering spires of Axis Prime, the Council's seat of power, alarms blared ceaselessly. The Arbiters, those who had ruled the galaxy unopposed for eons, gathered in emergency session. "This is unprecedented," Arbiter Zolvin hissed, his silver eyes flashing with rage. How could a primitive species like humanity have accessed such power? Arbiter Prime Xelana, still shaken from her encounter with Sarah Chen, raised a hand for silence. "It matters not how they acquired it. What matters is how we respond. If we do not crush this rebellion swiftly, everything we have built will crumble." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Plans were quickly formed. Fleets were mobilized. The full might of the Galactic Council would be brought to bear, not just against Earth, but against any who dared side with the upstart humans. Back on Earth, Sarah Chen grappled with her newfound powers and responsibilities. The precursor knowledge flowing through her mind was vast, at times overwhelming. She could reshape matter with a thought, peer across time and space, even manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. But with that power came crushing responsibility. Every decision she made could alter the fate of entire civilizations. "We need to move quickly," she addressed the hastily assembled War Council. Human military leaders sat alongside alien defectors and resistance figures from a dozen worlds. "The Council is rallying its forces. We need to strike before they can fully mobilize." Admiral Jason Chen, Sarah's father, leaned forward. "What do you propose?" Sarah waved her hand, and a holographic map of the galaxy sprang to life. "We'll target these key strategic points," she said, highlighting several systems: Council shipyards, supply depots, communication hubs. If we can disrupt their infrastructure, it will buy time for more worlds to join our cause. Dr. Zix, who had become one of Sarah's closest advisors, raised a tentacle. "But Commander, even with your new abilities, we don't have the forces to strike all these targets simultaneously." A small smile played across Sarah's lips. "We will, because we're not going to fight this war conventionally." She turned to the assembled alien representatives. "Each of you knows your homeworlds better than anyone. You know where the Council is vulnerable, where the people's desire for freedom burns hottest. We're going to fan those flames." Understanding dawned on the faces around the table. This wouldn't just be a military campaign. It would be a revolution. Over the next several weeks, the galaxy erupted in chaos. On the forest world of Arborea, Council garrison troops found their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning just as the native Sylvans launched a massive uprising. In the sprawling orbital shipyards of Tellus Prime, saboteurs armed with advanced stealth technology from Earth's Lazarus Project crippled an entire battle fleet before it could launch. The crystalline hive minds of the HFY Collective, long thought to be unshakably loyal to the Council, suddenly declared independence and sealed their borders against all outsiders. Everywhere the Council turned, they found their control slipping. For the first time in living memory, they were on the defensive. But they would not go down without a fight. Sarah Chen materialized in the shattered remains of New Beijing, the last major Earth city to fall in the initial invasion. The once proud skyline was a jagged ruin, and the air was thick with smoke and the scent of ozone. A platoon of human soldiers snapped to attention at her arrival. Their commander, a grizzled veteran named Colonel Torres, saluted sharply. "Glad you could make it, Commander. We've got a situation." Sarah nodded grimly. "The Council counterattack. I sensed their fleet entering the system." Torres' eyes widened slightly, but he pressed on. "Yes, ma'am. They'd brought everything they have left. Our orbital defenses are holding for now, but—" A deafening roar cut him off as a Council dreadnought burst through the cloud cover, its massive form blotting out the sun. Smaller craft swarmed around it like angry insects. Sarah's eyes blazed with inner fire. "Get your people to cover, Colonel. I'll handle this." As the soldiers scrambled for shelter, Sarah rose into the air, power crackling around her. The Council ships opened fire, raining death upon the ruined city, but Sarah raised her hands, and the energy blasts splashed harmlessly against an invisible barrier. With a gesture, she reached out to the minds of the Council troops. Most recoiled from her touch, their wills too indoctrinated to be swayed. But here and there, doubt took root. Gunners hesitated. Pilots veered off course. It wasn't much, but it was enough to create openings. Resistance fighters, armed with reverse-engineered Council tech, struck from hidden bunkers. Sleeper agents aboard the enemy ships initiated sabotage protocols. And all the while, Sarah Chen stood at the eye of the storm, directing the battle with the calculating precision of a grandmaster. But even as she fought, part of her consciousness ranged far across the galaxy. She could sense the other battles raging, the worlds teetering on the brink of freedom or annihilation. She felt the fear and determination of countless beings fighting for their future. And she felt something else, a dark presence, vast and ancient, stirring in the depths of Axis Prime. With a start, Sarah realized the truth. The Arbiter Prime wasn't just the leader of the Council. It was something far older and more terrible, a being that had survived the fall of the Precursors, twisting their legacy for its own ends. And now, sensing its control slipping away, it was preparing to unleash its full power. Sarah's heart raced. She had thought this battle for Earth would be the decisive one. But she now understood it was merely a diversion. The real threat was gathering its strength, preparing to unmake everything they had fought for. With a final burst of power, she shattered the Council dreadnought, sending its broken hulk crashing into the sea. The remaining enemy ships, their morale broken, began to retreat. Colonel Torres approached cautiously, awe and concern warring on his face. "Commander, are you all right?" Sarah turned to him, her eyes distant. "Hold this position, Colonel. Earth is not out of danger yet, but I'm needed elsewhere." But where Torres began, but Sarah was already gone, vanished in a flash of light. She reappeared in the war room of the Resistance headquarters, startling the assembled leaders. "We've won a great victory today," she announced, her voice tight with urgency. "But the true battle is yet to come. I need our best team assembled and ready for immediate deployment to Axis Prime." Dr. Zix's eye stalks quivered with concern. Axis Prime. But that's the heart of Council space, heavily defended and home to a threat that could undo everything we've accomplished. Sarah cut him off. "I'll explain on the way, but we need to move now. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance." As her team scrambled to prepare, Sarah closed her eyes, reaching out with her enhanced senses. Somewhere in the depths of Axis Prime, an ancient evil was stirring. The final confrontation loomed, and the outcome was far from certain. But Sarah allowed herself a small, grim smile. Humanity had already beaten impossible odds. Whatever cosmic horror awaited them, they would face it together. The revolution might have started with a spark, but it would end in an inferno that would reshape the galaxy forever. Rewriting the stars. The sleek stealth ship cut through the void of space, its advanced precursor-derived engines leaving barely a ripple in the fabric of reality. Within its confines, Commander Sarah Chen stood motionless, her eyes closed in deep concentration. Around her, a hand-picked team of humans and alien allies watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Dr. Zix's tentacles twitched nervously as he monitored the ship's sensors. "We're approaching the outer defense perimeter of Axis Prime," he announced. "By all rights, we should have been detected by now." Sarah's eyes snapped open, gleaming with otherworldly power. The Council's technology is formidable, but it's built on a flawed understanding of precursor principles. They see only what I allow them to see. As if to underscore her point, a massive Council battlecruiser loomed into view. The tension on the bridge ratcheted up several notches, but the enemy vessel glided past without so much as a warning ping. Admiral Jason Chen, Sarah's father, let out a low whistle. "I don't think I'll ever get used to that." Sarah allowed herself a small smile, but it quickly faded. "We're not out of danger yet. What awaits us on Axis Prime is beyond anything we've faced so far." The planet itself soon filled their view screen. Axis Prime was a world of gleaming metal and pulsing energy, every square inch a testament to the Council's power and technological prowess. At its heart rose a tower that seemed to pierce the very heavens, the Spire of Ascension, seat of the Arbiter Prime. As they made their final approach, Sarah addressed the team. "Remember the plan. Our primary objective is to reach the core of the Spire and confront the entity that calls itself the Arbiter Prime. Dr. Zix and his team will work on disabling the planet's defenses and communication networks. The rest of you will create a diversion to draw off as many enemy forces as possible." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the determined faces before her. "What we do here today will determine the fate of not just humanity, but every sentient species in the galaxy. No pressure." The quip drew a few nervous chuckles, breaking the tension slightly. With a thought, Sarah teleported the entire team to the surface of Axis Prime. They materialized in a shadowy alley, the looming bulk of the Spire of Ascension dwarfing everything around them. "Go," Sarah commanded, and the team sprang into action with practiced efficiency. Dr. Zix and his tech experts melted into the shadows, making their way towards the planet's primary control node. The diversion team, led by Admiral Chen, moved out to create chaos in the city's main plaza. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. Then, drawing on her precursor-enhanced abilities, she began to rise into the air, streaking towards the upper reaches of the Spire. Alarms began to blare throughout the city. Council forces scrambled to respond to the sudden attack, but they were met with a level of resistance they had never anticipated. The diversion team, armed with advanced weaponry and Sarah's strategic insights, cut through their defenses like a hot knife through butter. Meanwhile, Sarah encountered her own resistance as she ascended the Spire. Automated defense systems fired salvos of energy blasts, while elite Council guards on flying platforms moved to intercept her. But Sarah was no longer bound by the laws of conventional physics. She phased through solid matter, redirected energy beams with a thought, and danced between dimensions to evade her attackers. All the while, she pushed herself higher and higher, closer to the heart of the Council's power. Finally, she burst through the doors of the Arbiter Prime's sanctum. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with swirling patterns of energy that hurt the eyes to look at directly. And at its center, seated upon a throne that seemed to be made of solid darkness, was the Arbiter Prime. But as Sarah's enhanced senses took in the scene, she realized the truth. The Arbiter Prime was no mere alien, no matter how ancient or powerful. It was a construct, a puppet animated by something far more terrifying. From the throne, tendrils of oily darkness extended, reaching through cracks in reality itself. They connected to a presence that existed beyond normal spacetime, a cosmic horror that had survived the fall of the precursors and puppeteered the Council for eons. So, a voice like the death of stars reverberated through the chamber. "The inheritors have finally come." Sarah steeled herself, power crackling around her fists. Your reign is over. The people of this galaxy will no longer bow to your twisted will. A sound like mocking laughter echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Foolish child, I have outlasted empires and seen the birth and death of entire species. What hope do you have to stand against me? The tendrils of darkness lashed out, faster than thought. But Sarah was ready. She met the attack with a burst of pure precursor energy, the two forces clashing in a spectacular display of light and shadow. The battle that followed defied description in any conventional sense. Sarah and the cosmic entity dueled across multiple dimensions, their conflict rippling through the very fabric of space-time. In the city below, the diversion team fought with desperate courage against waves of council forces. Admiral Chen rallied his troops with indomitable human spirit, even as energy blasts and exotic weapons fire filled the air. Dr. Zix and his team, meanwhile, raced against time to breach the planet's cybersecurity. The alien scientist's tentacles were a blur as he interfaced directly with Axis Prime systems, seeking to turn the Council's own technology against them. Back in the sanctum, Sarah felt herself being overwhelmed. The cosmic entity was ancient beyond reckoning, its power vast and terrible. She was being pushed back, her defenses crumbling. But in that moment of desperation, Sarah reached out with her mind, not to the precursor knowledge that had empowered her, but to something far more fundamental. She touched the minds and hearts of every being fighting for freedom across the galaxy. And they responded. Suddenly, Sarah was no longer alone in her battle. The hopes, dreams, and indomitable will of countless beings flowed through her. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder with aliens, their combined spirit becoming a force that transcended the physical. Sarah's eyes blazed with renewed power. You say you've outlasted empires, she declared, her voice carrying the echo of billions. But you've never faced anything like us. We are not one species, one civilization. We are the combined potential of all free beings, and we will not be denied. With a cry that shook the foundations of reality, Sarah lashed out. The cosmic entity reeled back, genuinely surprised for the first time in eons. It fought back with the fury of a dying god, but it was too late. The combined will of the galaxy, focused through Sarah, crashed through the entity's defenses. In a cataclysmic release of energy, the cosmic horror was torn from its foothold in our reality and cast back into the void from whence it came. The backlash of energy rippled out from Axis Prime, washing over the galaxy in a wave of cleansing fire. Council ships and technology, so long corrupted by the entity's influence, shut down or crumbled to dust. In the aftermath, Sarah found herself floating in the void of space, looking down at Axis Prime. The planet's surface was scared by battle, the spire of ascension a broken ruin. But already she could see signs of new life and new potential stirring. Dr. Zix's voice crackled over the comm. Commander. Commander Chen, do you read? It's over. We've won. Sarah smiled, exhaustion and exhilaration warring within her. No, Doctor. We've only just begun. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy began the long process of healing and rebuilding. The fall of the Council left a power vacuum, but this time, it would be filled not by one dominant force, but by a coalition of free peoples. Sarah Chen, still coming to terms with her role as inheritor of the precursor legacy, dedicated herself to guiding this new galactic society. There would be challenges ahead, ancient grudges to overcome, new threats to face. But for the first time in millennia, the future was bright with possibility. Humanity had not only survived extinction, they had ushered in a new age of cooperation and exploration. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if in approval of this new path. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the cosmos, other young species looked up at their night skies, unaware that their futures had just been rewritten by the indomitable spirit of humanity and its allies. The end was just the beginning.